writer and historian. So it is Thursday, April 9th, 2020, and we are live. So everybody share this broadcast on your social media pages. Invite your friends to tune in. We should be on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. The African History Network. My personal page, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Also on YouTube, Michael Imhotep on YouTube as well, and on Periscope at the AHN Show on Periscope. So the unemployment numbers for last week have come out, and another 6.6 million people filed for unemployment last week, on top of the 6.6 million who filed for unemployment the previous week, on top of the 3.3 million who filed for unemployment the week before that. So in the past 4 weeks, we've had approximately 17 million people file for unemployment. Okay, this is largely and especially last week, this is tied to coronavirus. Okay, so I'm going to give you an update on that, and we'll look at an update overall what's going on with coronavirus, and then some updates that came out earlier this month from the IRS. Okay, so hope everybody's doing well. Everybody share this broadcast on social media platforms. Also, African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network also. Okay, email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. We have like 2 or 3 more spots left because I just brought on a couple more advertisers this week. All right, so let's look at the I want to look at the overall updates on what's going on here. Let's look at the live updates from the Washington Post. All right, so the coronavirus death toll continues to rise rapidly in the United States, with the state of New York recording its highest daily number of fatalities since the pandemic began, and that was on Wednesday, April 8th. But there are signs in some places that new infections may be leveling off, although experts warn that aggressive social distancing remains crucial to controlling the spread of the virus. And this is what I explained to people on my Sunday night show. Go back and listen to the African History Network show from Sunday, April 5th, 2020. And I'll be rebroadcasting that here on our Facebook fan page and on YouTube. It's an audio podcast format also. If you go to africanhistorynetwork.com, most of these broadcasts are also in audio podcast format. If you go to africanhistorynetwork.com, on the homepage, click on Listen to Podcasts. It has the link that takes you to our blog talk radio page. Or wherever you get your podcast from, whether it's iTunes, CastBox, FM Player, Acast, Stitcher. Just search for the African History Network show, and the podcasts are there. So the CDC last week recommended that everybody start wearing facial masks, some type of facial covering, whether it's a scarf, handkerchief, what have you, actually some type of, if you already have a surgical mask, whatever it is, right? That is not a substitute for social distancing. People misunderstand that. That is to keep you from infecting someone else or other people if you are asymptomatic, which means you have coronavirus but you don't have symptoms. That's to slow down the spread of it. That's to protect you, to keep you from infecting other people. That largely does not keep you from being infected with it. Okay? And the other thing that people don't understand is that the virus, if you come in contact with somebody that's asymptomatic, okay, the virus is could be very well on the surgical mask. So you can't touch your face. You still can't touch your face. You have to be very careful how you handle the mask. So the mask gives a false sense of security, or the facial covering, the handkerchief, whatever it is, gives a false sense of security. And people think because they have a facial covering on that they don't have to practice social distancing. No, you still have to practice social distancing. Social distancing is a better deterrent than the facial covering. So they have to work together. Okay, so we see that there are signs in some places that new infections may be leveling off, although experts warn that aggressive social distancing remains crucial to controlling the spread of the virus. And let's see, we have this on my personal page. I want to make this public also. Okay. All right. So now another 6.6 million Americans applied for unemployment benefits last week as the economy continued to spiral downward. Donald Trump is scared to death. He keeps talking about opening back up the economy. Yeah, you're just going to step over dead bodies, right? And just ignore what's taking place to open back up the economy. He's scared to death. He's scared for a number of reasons. One, the presidential candidate that he feared the most, the presidential candidate that he tried to shake down, Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky in that July 25th, 2019 call, and the presidential candidate that Trump risked his presidency for and risked impeachment for to try to stop is going to get the nomination. That's Joe Biden. Number one. Number two, Trump was largely going to run on this great economy, where that's basically disappeared. So he's in deep, deep trouble. He's in deep, as he should be, because he belongs in prison. I already told you this, because this is largely his fault. Okay, the whole spread of the coronavirus, ignoring the briefings from the intelligence community in January, February, and then also we see that the report came out from abcnews.go.com that there were briefings back going to November of 2019 that Trump ignored. All right. Then when we look at the reporting from Politico.com that came out, I think this was April 8th, Trump broke the agencies that were supposed to stop the COVID epidemic. Trump broke the agencies that were supposed to stop the COVID epidemic. And this deals with the dismantling of various pandemic teams, the National Security Council pandemic team, the Predict pandemic team in October 2019, the firing of scientists, things like this. Trump has blood on his hands. This is his fault. And this is what people have to understand. This is what many people are starting to realize. As more evidence comes out, they're going to realize that this was largely avoidable, if not basically all of it was avoidable. But the overwhelming majority of this was avoidable if he had paid attention and acted upon the warning signs along the way. Okay, so Donald Trump is preparing to unveil a second coronavirus task force. This one is focused on the economy because he wants to jumpstart the economy again. 500 million more people could be pushed into poverty as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The anti-poverty group Oxfam warned in a report. Now, officials in China announced new measures to track cases of the coronavirus in asymptomatic patients and concerns that amid concerns the country could face a new wave of infections. In Saudi Arabia announced plans for a ceasefire in Yemen to help fight the coronavirus, which aid to devastate the impoverished, war-ravaged country. Okay, announced plans for to help fight the coronavirus, which aid workers say could devastate the impoverished, war-ravaged country. I was just reading an article from this is from CNN Africa, I think it is. Which one is it? CNN Africa. And this is dealing with the impact coronavirus is having on the economy in sub-Saharan Africa. Yes, CNN Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa to fall into its first recession in 25 years due to coronavirus, says World Bank. Sub-Saharan Africa to fall into first recession in 25 years due to coronavirus, says World Bank. Check out that article that I think that just came out April 9th, either April 8th or April 9th, 2020 from CNN Africa. Yeah, this is April 9th, 2020. Okay, so check that one out. All right, now let's continue with these updates, and we're going to get into the unemployment numbers that just came out. So the director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention announced new guidelines to help protect essential workers in the United States. Announced new guidelines to protect essential workers in the United States. I just watched the sister who was interviewed by Stephanie Rule on MSNBC. And she talked about her daughter who worked at a grocery store who just died from coronavirus. And they just sent her last check. This is an African-American woman. Daughter's African-American. Stephanie Rule's crying. She's torn up by it. Okay. And the sister just They just gave her daughter's last check, which was for $20. Okay, and this sister died, and she spent a lot of time helping the elderly people at the grocery store, helping them to their cars, helping them to the Uber rides and things like this. So there's new guidelines that have come out to protect essential workers, those who work in grocery stores, the police officers, firefighters, those people on the front line. Okay, CDC announces coronavirus guidelines for essential workers. New York has highest single day death toll. Okay, so we'll post this link here. Let me go over a little bit of that here. This is from the Washington Post also, so we'll post this link here so you can check out that information. All right, and you have some in Congress saying that those on the front line should get some type of hazard pay. I mean, we see the various grocery stores taking more precautions. I see at Whole Foods, there's a line outside of Whole Foods like they're waiting to get into Club 54 in New York or something like that. You got a bouncer outside letting people in, like you had a nightclub. But they're trying to control the number of people inside the store to practice social distancing, etc. Whole Foods is closing up 2 hours early each night, if I understand correctly. Ties the store, etc. So this is really changing. We see restaurants implementing various policies dealing with social distancing, only allowing 2 to 5 people in the restaurant at a time. So this is changing the way people are doing business across the country. Now, if you have a Republican governor, it may not change yet, but it will. As more people die in these Republican states, you're going to see more things implemented in those Republican states. Okay, all right. So let's continue here. Just a second. Let me go back to this here. Okay. So another 6.6 million people filed for unemployment. And if we look at the reporting from NBCnews.com, we see that that took place. They filed for unemployment the first time for claims ending the week April 4th. Another wave of 6.6 million American workers filed first-time unemployment claims for the week ending April 4th, bringing the cumulative total to an astonishing 16 million over the past 3 weeks, and it's close to 17 million. I think it was Associated Press, blackamericaweb.com has the article that they picked up from Associated Press. 16.8 million Americans thrown out of work as economic toll rises. This is going to continue. This does not, first of all, we have to understand, in a lot of states like the state of Michigan, where I am, in a lot of these states where people have been filing for unemployment, the unemployment websites have been crashing. So all of the people who are unemployed who need to file for unemployment have not been able to file yet because the websites have been crashing. I know this past weekend, Michigan.gov was down for maintenance because there have been so many people who have been filing for unemployment in the state of Michigan. And there are many more who keep trying to file. They're not representing the 6.6 million. This is going to get worse. CNBC.com had an article probably about 2 weeks ago now that estimated up to 47 million people are going to file for unemployment. This is related to coronavirus. And wait till these Republican governors are forced to start shutting down these states. You're going to see how catastrophic this is. All right. Okay, let's continue. How's everybody doing? Okay, so what's going to happen is, as these Republican governors start shutting down these states, you're going to see the number of people filing for unemployment skyrocket. All right, so let's look at the reporting from the Washington Post. Let's go back to the reporting from NBC News, because they have an article that dealt with this. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the reporting from NBC News. So This is for week ending April 4th. Week ending April 4th. April 4th was Saturday. Saturday, April 4th. Okay. For the week ending March 21st, 3.3 million people filed new unemployment claims, easily shattering the previous record set in 1982 of 695,000 people. And then we know last week, that astounding figure doubled as 6.6 million people filed for unemployment claims for the week ending March 28th. Now, experts estimated that for the week ending March 28th, about 3.3 million people would file again for unemployment. It was double that. It was 6.6 million people. Okay? And then we see for the week ending April 4th, 6.6 million people filed again also. And I'm telling you, as we have, as more people are able to actually get on the websites and file for unemployment, okay, we're going to see a huge increase in this as well. And a lot of these people are going to remember what happened. A lot of these people are starting to realize that this is Trump's fault, because it is. This stuff was largely avoidable, okay? And he's going to have hell to pay when it comes to November 3rd, 2020. Now, so last week, that astounding figure doubled as 6.6 million people filed claims for the week ending March 28th, a figure that was revised upward to 6.9 million people in the new release. Now, Thursday's figure was at, so let me just back up. The 6.6 million people who filed the previous week of week ending March, that number has been revised upwards to 6.9 million people who filed. So you have 3.3 million people who filed the week ending March 21st. You got 6.9 million people who filed the week ending March 28th. And then you've got 6.6 million people filing the week ending April 4th. So you got basically 17 million people who filed for unemployment in the last 4 weeks. So Thursday's figure was at the high end of analyst estimates, which range from 4.5 million to 7 million would file. Daryl Cronk, C-R-O-N-K, is the chief investment officer of Wells Fargo Wealth and Investment Management. He said, so far, jobless claims look to me like the only limitation on the number of applications has been the state's ability to process those claims. He says, so far, jobless claims look to me like the only limitation on the number of applications has been the state's ability to process those claims. So the state has been limited in their ability to process the claims. So there are millions more people who haven't been able to file for unemployment. The cumulative toll of the last 3 weeks comes as last week's Labor Department release showed that the economy shed 701,000 jobs in the month of March, a figure far more negative than anticipated, although economists said it only captured a fraction of the carnage in the labor market that largely took place in the second half of the month. Okay? This only captured this 701,000 jobs that the economy shed in the month of March, only captured a fraction of the carnage in the labor market that largely took place in the second half of the month. So there's more to come. There's more to come. It's going to be horrific. Okay? So what many of us have to figure out is, how do we make money in this changing economy? You got people out doing DoorDash, doing Uber Eats, doing Grubhub, because people are still buying food. People are doing Black and Mobile. You saw the interview I did with the young brother David Cabo, who owns Black and Mobile. Okay, and Black and Mobile does, it's a delivery service, African American food delivery service, and it's like Grubhub, Uber Eats, but they focus on black-owned businesses, okay, and they are in Philadelphia. That's where they started in February 2019. Started in Philadelphia, and they're in Detroit. They've been in Detroit maybe 7 weeks or so. They're in Detroit, and then also they're going to be in Atlanta soon. Okay, so visit blackandmobile.com, blackandmobile.com. Also, you can download their app to your smartphone, the Black and Mobile app as well. But a lot of people are figuring out, okay, how do we make money in this economy? Now, you can once you can actually file for unemployment, meaning that you can actually get through to the website, file for unemployment. As you've been watching my videos, I've been talking about this. This is part of the $2 trillion stimulus bill. You will not only get your unemployment from the state, but you'll get an additional $600 a week for up to 4 months from the federal government. An additional $600 a week for up to four months from the federal government. Okay, that's automatic. It may, depending upon your state, it may all come in one check or direct deposit, meaning from your state and federal government, or it may come in separate checks. Okay, all right. So now this 701,000, I want people to understand this. This 701,000 jobs that were lost in March, that ended 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth. That ended 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth that started in 2010 under President Barack Obama. That was a record number of months of consecutive job growth that ended with Donald Trump, who's supposed to be the big businessman, the stable genius. He's supposed to be so brilliant, okay? And he's none of those things. He's a con man and a fraud, and he's destroying this economy that President Obama saved. President Obama, the Obama administration, President Obama, Joe Biden, saved the economy from catastrophe and handed a largely healthy economy to Trump. It wasn't a perfect economy, and everybody understands this. It wasn't. The unemployment rate for African Americans was still double that of white people. Yeah, but the unemployment rate for African Americans was also cut in half under the Obama administration. It peaked at about 16.7% in 2010, and it dropped down to 7.8% by December of 2016. The unemployment rate for African Americans was cut by more than half under President Obama. There were 15.1 million jobs created, as reported by the Department of Labor during the 8 years of President Obama. 2.95 million jobs went to African Americans. Okay, you can go to the Department of Labor, go to it's the Labor Department, DOL.gov, I think it is, DOL.gov, Department of Labor. And you can research this information there, okay? And Trump is destroying this economy. He gives President Obama no credit for 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth. He makes it seem like all this stuff, the positive job numbers started under him. That's not true. That's a lie, okay? If we look at the article from NBCnews.com, U.S. economy lost a total of 701,000 jobs in March. This is from April 3rd, 2020. And in the article, it talks about, let's see, where is it? It tells you in the article that that ended, well, when you research this, you find out it ended 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth, which is a record. That's come to an end under Donald Trump. All right, Washington Post also has good reporting on this as well. Okay, so let's continue here. Okay, so the cumulative toll of the last 3 weeks comes as last week's Labor Department release showed that the economy shed 701,000 jobs in March. Now, economists say the percentage of people out of work has soared since then. Okay, since March. What the 701,000 job loss that came out, that was reported the first Friday of April, because the job numbers come out the first Friday of each month. So that reflects what happens the previous month. Okay, there have been millions of people who have filed for unemployment since March. Now, economists say the percentage of people out of work has soared since then. Mark Zandi, Zandi, is a chief economist at analytics. He said it's fair to say we're not into the double digits. It's fair to say, we're now into the double digits. It's fair to say we're now into the double digits. So experts are really estimating that we are between 12 to 14% unemployment now, as opposed to 3.5, 3.6%. So how long this all could last remains an open question. Now, in an interview with Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show on Wednesday, April 8th, White House Coronavirus Response Coordinator Dr. Deborah Birx, BIRX, said officials were evaluating whether or not to extend its recommendation that people continue social distancing beyond the current guideline of April 30th. Okay. She said officials were evaluating whether or not to extend its recommendation, the White House's recommendation, that people continue social distancing beyond the current guideline of April 30th. And then we see here in the state of Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer is going to extend the deadline as well. Between March 28th and April 4th, let's see, WXYZ Channel 7 in Detroit is reporting that Michigan had 384,000 unemployment filings between March 28th and April 4th. It's probably 2 to 3 times that number of people who were trying to file and have not been able to file. All right. How's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media pages. Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN Show at Cash App, through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App. Then also paypal.me/the AHN Show through PayPal. paypal.me/the AHN Show through PayPal, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, okay, through our website also. Just on the homepage, click on the yellow donate button. All right, so now while the first wave of job losses hit hardest in consumer-facing sectors, such as leisure, hospitality, and retail, the continued weekly losses in the millions indicated that the pain was spreading across the economy. Let's see. One of the experts, let's see, which one? Daryl Cronk of Wells Fargo Wealth and Investment Management. Daryl Cronk said, now it's broadening out. Manufacturing, construction, of course, the energy sector. He said, along with pockets of healthcare, wholesale, professional, and personal services. And what we're seeing now is that you're having white-collar workers who are starting to file for unemployment as well. This is having a ripple effect throughout the economy. So it's not just hospitality and restaurants, but it's now hitting white-collar workers also. Now, it's predicted that the unemployment rate will climb as high as 15% by later this spring, a remarkable free-for-all for a job market at half-century lows. Okay, because the unemployment rates of like 3.5%, things like this, these were basically like 50-year lows. Okay, now you also have to understand how the unemployment rate is calculated. The unemployment rate does not give the total picture of the economy. Go to BLS.gov, not BLS, go to BLS.gov, Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov, and search for how is the employment rate calculated. How is the employment rate calculated? Okay, at bls.gov, and this breaks down to give you, and there's 6 different unemployment rates. There's U1 through U6. The U3 number is the number that is basically given, that's the number you hear in the news usually the first Friday of each month. That's the U3 number, okay? And that's just looking at people who filed for unemployment in the past 4 weeks. Okay, so search for that at bls.gov, dealing with the unemployment rate. Actually, you can look at how the government measures unemployment. How the government measures unemployment at bls.gov, because most people don't understand what the numbers mean. Okay, let's continue here. So, Cronk went on to say, Daryl Cronk went on to say, people are so fixated on the labor market and the impairment of the labor market because it does not drive what we expect for GDP, gross domestic product, contraction. Now, he estimated that second quarter domestic GDP will contract 22% on a quarter-to-quarter basis, adding that he anticipates the beginning signs of a recovery by the third quarter. He said it still looks like -3% for the whole year, but it's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be a wild ride, and it's going to be, it's probably close to about 47 million people who will actually file for unemployment. And this is going to have a devastating impact upon the economy. On top of that, we see that African Americans are leading in certain cities or in some states when it comes to dying from coronavirus. Okay, we see in the state of Michigan that African Americans make up about 12% of the Michigan population, but African Americans make up about 40% of all COVID-19 deaths that are reported in the state of Michigan. Okay, we see in the city of Chicago, they're making up 70% of the deaths in the city of Chicago. On my Sunday night show, I talked about the big study that came out from ProPublica.org. Early data shows African Americans have contracted and died of coronavirus at an alarming rate. Early data shows African Americans have contracted and died of coronavirus at an alarming rate. So this is a time when people have to really focus on and look at things. Okay, so what type of business can I have on the side to generate money? What type of e-commerce business can I have on the side to generate money? If I'm off work, I'm collecting unemployment, trying to collect unemployment, I have a business on the side, I have been doing a lot with it. What can I do? Because you can't go to trade shows anymore. You can't have conferences. All that stuff's been shut down. You can do a virtual conference if you want to. You could try that. You could try that. Okay, but what can I do? So this is a time we really have to start doing things like reading Black Enterprise magazine. Black Enterprise magazine, blackenterprise.com. We know the founder of Black Enterprise, Earl Graves, just passed away at 85 years old, and he suffered from Alzheimer's. So read blackenterprise.com. We have to get into things like this book right here, The Wealth Choice, Success Secrets of Black Millionaires by Dr. Dennis Kimbro. This is the type of information I've been studying for decades because my degree is in business administration. I'm a historian, been studying history for 28 years now. But my degree is in business administration. So this is the type of information I have a background in. This is by Dr. Dennis Kimbro. It's a fantastic book, The Success Secrets of Black Millionaires, and understanding the mindset of millionaires, especially African American millionaires, not those who make their money from business, not entertainment, but those who make their money from business, investing, real estate, okay? Those who are entrepreneurs, and understanding that an entrepreneur is someone who solves problems that other people can't solve for a profit. That's basically, in a nutshell, what entrepreneurs are. Those are people who solve problems that other people can't solve for a profit. All right, so we have we have that article from NBC News. Unemployment claims surged by 6.6 million as coronavirus continues to rout workforce. Then we look back at, Washington Post. Washington Post has the article, 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment last week, bringing the pandemic total to over 17 million. Economists say the U.S. unemployment rate is now 13%, the worst since the Great Depression. So we have to understand this. Economists say the U.S. unemployment rate is now 13%, the worst since the Great Depression. So a lot of people are looking at, okay, what are people buying? And I said this in one of my previous broadcasts. What are people buying right now? I think it was the one from last week, Thursday, when we were dealing with the 6.6 million numbers. People are buying food. People are buying groceries. People are getting carry out from restaurants. People are buying prescription drugs, okay, at the pharmacy, prescription drugs, toilet paper. So we have to figure out, okay, what are people buying now? How can we capture some of this money for African Americans? How can we make money off of this? One of the things that people miss in this $2 trillion stimulus bill, while people are focused on $1,200, a $1,200 one-time stimulus check, which will help a lot of people, and then you have other people who are just stuck on if you are paying child support and owe back child support, you get a partial $1,200 check. You get a partial stimulus check, or you won't get one at all because it will go to the custodial parent to benefit the child. But the overwhelming majority of those same fathers can also apply for unemployment and get unemployment from the state and get an additional $600 a week for up to 4 months from the federal government, and 600 times 2 is $1,200. Okay, so most people who are stuck on fathers with back child support won't get a $1,200 check are not telling people that they can file for unemployment. The other thing is that when we look at Wall Street Journal had this article, and I talked about this before, dealing with coronavirus stimulus payments. When will they be sent out, and who is eligible? This is from March 31st, 2020. And they dealt with one of the things they talked about in here is this the right one? They talked about your 401k and your IRAs, okay, individual retirement accounts. Let me see, hold on, where is that one? And because of this bill, you can take out up to $100,000 from your 401k and not pay the penalty. You can take out up to $100,000 from your 401k plan and not pay the penalty. All right, this is dealing with law, policies, government. That's in the stimulus bill. So a lot of people have a 401k plan, and there's opportunities here because you can buy restaurants dirt cheap right now. Some restaurants are closed. I'm seeing restaurants that are closed. They're closed for the month of April. Some are closed till all this blows over with coronavirus because they're not making enough money from just doing carry out. Okay, these are dine-in restaurants. They're not making enough money from carry out. They've had to lay staff off, things like that. So they're saying, look, we're just gonna reduce expenses and just shut down. So you can buy a restaurant dirt cheap right now if you want to buy a restaurant. You can buy a lot of these abandoned houses and stuff like that dirt cheap right now. In a lot of these vacant lots in our communities that we complain about every day, you can tap into your 401k dollars. You can get with people who are maybe your friends and family members and pull together the unemployment and their money that they have in savings and 401ks, things like this, and buy up some of this property in our communities. Buy up vacant lots, buy up abandoned houses. Then, once this blows over, You can hire brothers who are behind on child support to renovate the houses, to help them get caught up on child support. So we have to think differently. We have to think strategically. There's a lot of opportunity here. But a lot of people operate from a poverty mindset, not poverty meaning lack of money in a bank account or in your pocket, but poverty meaning a mindset of scarcity and not looking at opportunity. Success is where preparation meets opportunity. Okay? Washington Post had something. There was one from Wall Street Journal, but Washington Post, more FAQs, frequently asked questions. Here's how to get a small business loan under the $349 billion aid bill. And I think it was in this one here, they talk about, is this the one where they talk about, it must be the one in the Wall Street Journal where they talk about the IRAs. But we have researched that. You can take out up to $100,000 from your 401k plan and not pay the penalty. All right, so if we go back to Washington Post, 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment last week, bringing the pandemic total to over 17 million. So the surge of job losses continued last week ending March 4th, which was Saturday, with 6.6 million Americans applying for unemployment benefits. The Labor Department said Thursday. Now, more than 17 million new jobless claims have been filed in the past 4 weeks, a rapid and unprecedented escalation in unemployment in the United States since the week that Donald Trump declared a national emergency due to the deadly coronavirus. That was Friday the 13th, March 13th, that he declared a national emergency. That was 2 days after the World Health Organization declared coronavirus they declared it a global pandemic. All right, let's continue here. Just a second. Okay, so more than 17 million new jobless claims have been filed in the past 4 weeks, a rapid and unprecedented escalation in unemployment in the United States since the week that Donald Trump declared a national emergency. So the 17 million figure includes new reporting from the Labor Department that even more people filed for unemployment in the prior week, the week ending, was it March 31st, I think it was, pushing the jobless claims up during the week ending March 28th to a record 6.9 million, up from 6.6 million. Now, top government and health officials have ordered a sweeping closure of businesses in an effort to fight the coronavirus by keeping workers and customers at home. But the side effect has been a massive rise in unemployment. Janet L. Yellen, one of the world's top economists, said U.S. unemployment rate has jumped to at least 12 or 13% already, the worst level of joblessness the nation has seen since the Great Depression. So we see governors shutting down, Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York, Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois. We see Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland. We see them shutting down non-essential businesses, right? And this is what I was explaining to people in 2016, how elections have consequences and what happens when you don't have somebody competent running the country, when you don't have somebody competent as president. So you had some people saying, oh, we're not going to vote for president. We're just going to do economic empowerment and build 5-story buildings and do business and invest in the stock market. That's good. We need to do that. But if you actually understand politics and how politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement, politics and government creates the environment, the economic environment that your business operates within and depends upon. Because a lot of those businesses have shut, a lot of the businesses that could stay open have shut down because of lack of revenue coming in, because some people who they depended on as customers don't have the money anymore to spend with them. or don't have as much money to spend with them. So they saw a drastic reduction in the amount of revenue coming in. So some businesses just had to shut down altogether. Those who were deemed as essential and could stay open, some of them said, look, we can't afford to stay open. So this is understanding how elections have consequences and understanding how government regulates business. Government creates the environment that business operates within. This is an example of what happens when you have somebody who is incompetent, who ignores who largely ignores the warnings from the scientists, who ignores the data, etc., and is destroying an economy. Some of these businesses are never going to come back. Some of these businesses are just gone. So Chris Rupke, chief financial economist at MUFG Bank, in a note to clients said, it looks like the unemployment rate is headed to 15%. This isn't a recession, it's the Great Depression too. This isn't a recession, it's the Great Depression too. He's talking about it's the Great Depression for white people. So if it's the Great Depression for white people, what is it for African Americans? He's talking about this is the Great Depression for white people. If it's the Great Depression for white people, what is it for African Americans? So if you hear me talk about this whole concept of political self-defense, and I do an entire lecture and presentation dealing with 6 principles of political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. One of the things I talk about is we don't understand how to protect ourselves from threats. We don't because we'll vote from election to election, and we won't research and understand what was accomplished the previous term, what was accomplished since the last election, what policies were put into place that are beneficial to us. Therefore, we don't understand which policies to protect. How do you protect gains that were made when you're under the misconception that no gains were made? How do you practice political self-defense? How do you protect those gains that were made and perceive those who are threats to the gains that were made and trying to take away what you have? But if you haven't assessed that, then you'll listen to a con man ask black people, what the hell do you have to lose? And you don't understand the answer is everything. The answer is everything. Not enough people read the document that I've been talking about for years, Progress of the African American Community under the Obama administration. It's still at whitehouse.gov. Donald Trump has not taken it down. And it shows how during the 2 terms of President Barack Obama, his policies positively impacted the African American community. It lists them down by category. A lot of people don't know, under the Obama administration, the U.S. prison population dropped to its lowest point in 20 years in December 2015. That's the reporting from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, from the Department of Justice, the report that came out from the Department of Justice December 2016, talking about December of 2015. U.S. prison population dropped each year under President Obama, consecutively, each year under President Obama, and it dropped to its lowest point in 20 years. And this is not discussed a lot because the war on drugs was largely winding down under President Obama. Not only that, the Obama administration, the Department of Justice, launched more investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments than any previous administration. There was 24 or 25 investigations that led to 14 or 15 consent decrees. The Trump administration comes in and they back off of holding police accountable. They back off of doing investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments. Not only that, Jeff Sessions, Donald Trump's first attorney general, tried to back the Department of Justice out of the consent decrees with the Baltimore Police Department and the Chicago Police Department. Went to court over this to try to back out of that, and the federal judge would not let the Trump Department of Justice back out of that. It was the Obama administration that pursued the investigations into the Baltimore Police Department, and that was largely sparked by the death of Freddie Gray, the Baltimore Police Department and the Chicago Police Department. And then the Department of Justice entered into the consent decrees, which has federal oversight by a federal judge with those police departments. And you had the police departments that welcomed this also. So you see a total hands-off approach to policing from the Trump administration. You have to ask the question why. But remember, Donald Trump partly ran on the platform of law and order. Law and Order, which is a throwback to Richard Nixon, because that's the platform Richard Nixon ran on in 1968. I do a whole nother lecture, African American Resistance in the Era of Donald Trump, Voter Suppression, Reparations, and How Elections Have Consequences. That's at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have it on DVD and digital download. African American Resistance in the Era of Donald Trump, Voter Suppression, Reparations, and How Elections Have Consequences. So, as tens of thousands of businesses close due to shelter-in-place orders in more than 40 states, the hospitality sector, hotels, restaurants, and amusement parks weathered the steepest losses. In the week ending March 28th, California reported that some 872,000 workers from service industries filed for unemployment. Okay, in the week ending March 28th, California reported that some 872,000 workers from service industries filed for unemployment. The 6.6 million number that we just got, that's for a week ending April 4th, which was Saturday. Now, plenty of other sectors are shedding workers, including manufacturing, construction, and even the healthcare sector outside of hospitals. In Texas, which reported 121,000 newly unemployed people in the week ending March 28, jobs were lost in food services and also in manufacturing, mining, agriculture, forestry, healthcare, waste management, transportation, and warehousing, among other sectors. Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia, in a statement, said, "Today's report continues to reflect the purposeful sacrifice being made by America's workers and their families to slow the spread of the coronavirus." Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we saw it was, we've seen that the first quarter of this year was the worst quarter in decades for the stock market. There's more catastrophe to come. There's more catastrophe to come. The Federal Reserve has unveiled details about its $2 trillion Main Street lending program for businesses of all sizes, as well as struggling city and state governments. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said in a statement that the nation's top priority is fighting the pandemic and caring for the ill, but the central bank is doing whatever it takes to provide economic relief. He said, quote, "The Fed's role is to provide as much relief and stability as we can during this period of constrained economic activity, and our actions today will help ensure that the eventual recovery is as vigorous as possible," end quote. Okay, so check out this article here from the Washington Post. Now, the article goes on to say it takes 2 to 3 weeks to process someone's unemployment claim in normal times. It takes 2 to 3 weeks to process someone's unemployment claim in normal times. Since Donald Trump declared a national emergency on March 13th, state unemployment systems have been overrun, causing even longer delays. So this 6.6 million, this is a lagging indicator. Florida started handing out paper unemployment applications this week because the state's jobless claims website kept failing. In the state of New York, laid off workers are having to call hundreds of times to complete their applications. The Washington Post spoke with over a dozen workers across the country. The majority have not yet received money. I think they meant to say over dozens of workers. The Washington Post spoke with over dozens of workers across the country. The majority have not yet received their money, their unemployment benefits yet. As unemployment checks are slow to arrive, people are turning to whatever aid they can find. Modern day bread lines have started appearing in cities like Orlando, San Diego, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland, where thousands of people lined up for free food. The slow release of funds in the United States is a marked contrast from Denmark, the country of Denmark, where the government is paying workers 75% of their salaries during the pandemic, and Canada, which vowed to get money to workers in 10 days or less. Now, Michelle Evermore is a senior policy analyst at the National Employment Law Project. She said that, quote, there were already hurdles in accessing unemployment benefits before the pandemic hit. Many states had done everything they could to reduce access to benefits. Well, now we are seeing the result. Now, Tammy DeVito was so desperate for money after losing her job as a waitress on March 11th and waiting weeks for help from the state of New York that she started a GoFundMe page asking for donations. She applied on March 12th for unemployment, but the online form says she needed to call to complete her application. That's when the horror began, she said. She called every day, sometimes dialing 100 times. She also got a busy signal or recording saying, try again later. Now, Tammy DeVito finally got through on March 31st. She said she expects her first payment on Monday, a month after she started her application. She said, how are people supposed to live a whole month without income? She's a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. She's a waitress. She said, I've had to resort to begging online to complete strangers just so I can have enough money to eat and pay my bills. Now, Tammy DeVito was so thankful that more than 100 people gave money to her GoFundMe, but she also received numerous messages berating her for not saving and telling her to get a job at a grocery store. Now, economists say that millions of workers are likely to file for unemployment in the month of April, and this will strain America's safety net programs even more. Absolutely. And once again, CNBC predicted, CNBC.com had an article from a couple of weeks ago, and they predicted that you would have up to 47 million people filing for unemployment. Up to 47 million people filing for unemployment. For all practical purposes, we're in a depression right now. We're past a recession. You talk about 12, 13% unemployment nationally. We're in depression. We're in a depression right now. So economists say millions of workers are likely to file for unemployment in April, and this will strain America's safety net program even more. They are urging companies to furlough workers instead of doing a full layoff. A furlough usually allows workers to keep their health insurance and return quickly when business resumes. But many companies have cut ties entirely, leaving workers with no income and bills piling up in the midst of a pandemic. So for especially African Americans, we have to figure out what type of, if you have a business online, this is the time to put the pedal to the metal and start pushing that. Okay, what type of business can families start together? Okay, if you especially if you have an e-commerce business and your children are at home, your spouse is at home, things like this. This is a time that people can pitch in with the family business, okay, to help bring some income into the house. And we also know that people who are part of the gig economy, the people who drive Ubers and drive Lyfts and things like this, and that's dangerous. That's really dangerous now because you have other people in your car, and people could be contagious, who are in your car, things like this. We know that they can file for unemployment. Part of this $2 trillion bill, you've been watching my videos, you know this. I've told you this. Part of this $2.2 trillion coronavirus stimulus bill, rescue bill, those who are self-employed, they can file for unemployment and get unemployment benefits as well from the state and the federal government. Okay, this is huge. That this has not happened before. Those who are hairstylists and barbers and those who are into real estate, things like this, those who are realtors, okay, they can file and get unemployment as well. Now, one of the recommendations that I've heard from some of the experts, especially here locally in Detroit, like on local news, because the websites are overran with people trying to apply, try applying online after 8 p.m. Try applying online after 8 p.m. because after 8 p.m. that's when the bulk of people who are trying to apply are not online. Okay? And you have a better chance of doing it then. 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. So many companies have cut ties entirely with their employees, leaving workers with no income and bills piling up in the midst of a pandemic. Okay, so we have to have a shift in our mindset, especially for African Americans. Success is where preparation meets opportunity. We have to have a shift in our mindset and look at what are people spending money on. What are people buying? People are buying food. People are buying groceries. People are buying gasoline, toilet paper, prescription drugs. Okay, what can we get into that people are still spending money on? And then also go to SBA.gov, SBA.gov, and I'm going to do a separate broadcast dealing with this. SBA.gov has the information, that's the Small Business Administration. They have the information there for applying for a small business loan, because there's about $350 billion in loans for small businesses. And if you follow certain guidelines, such as not laying off employees, those loans turn into grants and you don't have to pay them back. And now Congress is looking at passing an additional $200 billion plus in loans for small businesses as well. Okay, so go to SBA.gov. They have the information right on the homepage dealing with small business guide and loan resources. Small business guide and loan resources. But this is all part of that $2.2 trillion bill. So when I hear people say, "Oh, well, there's nothing in this bill for black people," that's a damn lie. You haven't studied it. And see, there's too much misinformation. First of all, African Americans are dying from misinformation from COVID-19, from conspiracy theorists putting out nonsense. First they were saying that we couldn't get it. Now they're saying we're getting it because of this 5G nonsense, which is conspiracy theory. That's Russian propaganda. That's Russian propaganda. And it was Russian propaganda dealing with 5G that first started being pushed in 2019 by Russia Today America TV. New York Times has a big article dealing with this. I've talked about this before. And because of this misinformation, people are dying. Now they're trying to connect 5G to coronavirus. And you got people on social media trying to elevate their social media platforms and be relevant and all this stuff with irrelevant information and lying to people. And one of the reasons why we see African Americans disproportionately dying from this, one of the reasons, not the only reason, yes, underlying conditions play part of it, but also misinformation from simple Simon ass people putting out this BS, and this misinformation is helping to kill our people. So let's continue here. African American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. We have some new advertisers here now. LoyalDetermined.com. LoyalDetermined.com can help you with two things. Number one, with algebra, Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, they offer online math courses. But two, they also offer online dating courses. And I guess from dating, that's multiplication also, because if you keep going, you're going to, end up having children. So that's math as well, right? Also, right, with dating, that can lead to some math as well. So Loyal Determined offers online dating courses for both women and men, which are easy to follow and will help you improve your existing relationship or assist you in making your next relationship succeed. So right now you have a lot of people who are at home, they're staying in, they're with their significant other, or they developed a relationship with somebody, you know, and you know, some now some people. I was listening to the D.L. Hughley show, the radio show, and they talked about how the Google searches for divorce have skyrocketed. They increased something like 3,000%. Because, you know, a lot of people are spending more time with their significant other, realize they really don't want to be married, okay? And and then you have other people who realize they want to develop a relationship with somebody and they're trying to find out how. So loyaldetermined.com can help you with this. Now they also offer online math courses for students who want to sharpen their skills in courses like Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 in an engaging and effective way. So a lot of parents have their children at home, and a lot of parents realize just how important teachers are. A lot of parents can't wait for their children to go back to school. They're gonna throw a parade for teachers. They realize how valuable teachers are, okay? But you don't want your children's skills to depreciate. And I know a lot of school districts are having online schools and things like this, teaching classes online. But you're looking for supplemental information as well. So loyaldetermined.com is constantly offering awesome new online courses to help you improve your life. So be sure to check out their website frequently. Visit their website today, loyaldetermined.com, loyaldetermined.com. Okay. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the Wilmington Massacre of 1898, Wilmington, North Carolina. You may have heard about the documentary Wilmington on Fire, okay, by director Christopher Everett. So before Rosewood, the Rosewood Massacre was January of 1923. Before Rosewood, before Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Black Wall Street was, that attack was June 1st, 1921. There was Wilmington. The award-winning documentary Wilmington on Fire is available right now at the website wilmingtonfire.com. wilmingtonfire.com. Wilmington on Fire features rare photographs, original research, and testimonies from historians that uncover a shocking event that marked a turning point in the politics of the post-Reconstruction South. So Reconstruction is the period of time after slavery where they're really trying to put back the country and rebuild the South, and that's from 1865 to 1877. Watch the award-winning documentary Wilmington on Fire today at wilmingtononfire.com. WILMINGTON. wilmingtononfire.com. Okay, so during this period of time, you know, I was out yesterday. It was a nice day in Detroit, and I saw a lot of people out riding bikes and jogging, things like this. You know, you could see gentrification taking place because most of them were white. Okay, I live in downtown Detroit, but that's a whole nother story. So a lot of people want to get into shape, even during this period of time dealing with coronavirus, and also exercising, getting into shape, reducing obesity, helps boost your immune system as well. Well, SheRanHerselfFit.com can help you with this. She Ran Herself Fit. Their mission is to inspire and motivate women to make healthy lifestyle changes. She Ran Herself Fit is a brand that promotes women living a healthy lifestyle by making small sacrifices in our daily routine and changing your diet, in your daily routine and changing your diet. You can combat many of the different diseases that are prevalent in the African American community. We know that if you change your diet, a lot of people who have diabetes, they can either get rid of diabetes or really get it under control so they can come off of insulin. Now consult with your doctor on this, okay? Consult with your doctor on this, but your doctor would tell you how diabetes is also related to diet as well. Obesity is related to diet, okay? So a lot of these diseases that we have, especially we are afflicted with in the African American community, whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, etc., it can either be totally eradicated or our condition can greatly be improved by changing our diet, eating less processed foods, eating more fruits and vegetables, things like this, reducing the amount of meat that we take in, especially red meat, reducing the amount of alcohol that we drink, etc. Also, there was an article, and I'm going to do a separate broadcast dealing with this, separate video dealing with this. We'll probably talk about this on my Sunday night show. There's a study that came out that deals with the impact, deals with the correlation between smoking marijuana and making you more susceptible to coronavirus. News.yahoo.com has this article here. Smoking marijuana could make the lungs more susceptible to COVID-19. Experts say as cannabis sales spike. Smoking marijuana could make the lungs more susceptible to COVID-19, experts say, as cannabis sales spike. This is from April 7th, 2020. And in the article here, it talks about, now we know medicinal marijuana has its purpose, but also to get a higher concentration of THC, you put it in food and consume it that way as opposed to smoking it. Okay. Some studies and anecdotal reports suggest marijuana can help people cope with anxiety, which is being felt deeply across the world as the coronavirus pandemic continues. But lung health experts, L-U-N-G, lung health experts warn that smoking marijuana regularly could increase a person's risk of contracting COVID-19. COVID-19 is the disease that is caused by the coronavirus. The coronavirus is actually SARS-CoV-2, severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS-CoV-2. Coronavirus is a respiratory disease, okay? So lung experts warn that smoking marijuana regularly could increase a person's risk of contracting COVID-19 and also having more severe symptoms and complications from the disease, given evidence on tobacco and COVID-19. And what we already know about how heavy marijuana smoking can impact the lungs. Okay? Let me repeat this. Lung experts warn that smoking marijuana regularly could increase a person's risk of contracting COVID-19 and also having more severe symptoms and complications from the disease, given evidence on tobacco and COVID-19, looking at the relationship between smoking cigarettes and COVID-19, and what we already know about how heavy marijuana smoking can impact the lungs. Okay? And we also know that most hospitalized coronavirus patients have underlying lung disease. Okay? So although there's no data on marijuana use in COVID-19 patients, marijuana smokers, particularly ones who combine cannabis with tobacco, should be wary of their habits because of existing data on coronavirus patients in Italy and China, according to Dr. Barry J. Make, M-A-K-E, a pulmonologist at National Jewish Health. Dr. Make said, from China and Italy, we see people who developed COVID-19 and had underlying lung disease. They have more complications and die more often. So this is the perfect time to stop smoking. Now, preliminary CDC data found, the Center for Disease Control, preliminary CDC data found that chronic lung diseases, including asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COVID, COPD, COVID, you see commercials for COPD, COVID, that's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Preliminary CDC data found that chronic lung diseases, including asthma, COVID, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and emphysema were common underlying conditions in hospitalized patients in the U.S. The CDC was able to analyze 7,162 laboratory-confirmed COVID-19 cases and found that 656 of them, or 9.2%, reported having a chronic lung condition. Now, smoking marijuana regularly could lead to severe COVID-19 symptoms. Okay, so check out the rest of this article. They have a lot of information here. And so then we have to look at the fact, well, wait a second. Marijuana usage has been heavily promoted to the African American community in hip hop music and hip hop culture. And then we were lied to by conspiracy theorists, first telling us that we can't get COVID-19, then telling us that people are not dying from COVID-19, they're dying from 5G. So read this full article. This is from news.yahoo.com. Smoking marijuana could make the lungs more susceptible to COVID-19, experts say, as cannabis sales spike. All right, so let's go back to the article from Washington Post. All right. Dealing with 6.6 million people file for unemployment week ending April 4th. So unemployment benefits typically, let's go back to this. Let's go. Okay, so economists say that millions of workers economists say the millions of workers likely to file for unemployment in the month of April will strain America's safety net programs even more. Strain America's safety net programs even more. They are urging companies to furlough workers instead of doing a full layoff. A furlough usually allows workers to keep their health insurance and return quickly when business resumes. But many companies have cut ties entirely, leaving workers with no income and bills piling up in the midst of a pandemic. Now, unemployment benefits typically cover less than half of a worker's salary, but the $2 trillion relief package from Congress passed directed states to give an extra $600 a week to people out of work, including self-employed and gig workers. That extra $600 is actually coming from the federal government. The Trump administration issued rules Sunday night for states to, so it was Sunday, April 5th. The Trump administration issued rules Sunday night for states to begin dispersing the extra money, but state officials say it will take time to process all the applications. Many states have not even set up a process yet to handle applications from self-employed workers like hairdressers and Lyft drivers. So that's staggered. So people who are part of the gig economy, people who are self-employed, they can start applying later. State of Michigan is April 10th, okay, that they can start applying. So Mike Ricci, R-I-C-C-I, is a spokesperson for Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. And Mike Ricci said, understand that it takes approximately 25 to 30 minutes to file one claim. He said staff were working around the clock, but there was only so much they could do given the state received more claims in the month of March alone than in all of 2019. In the state of Maryland, and Governor Larry Hogan they have a stay-in order in the state of Maryland. But you got some governors, like he's a Republican, but he's been more proactive with this and more responsible with this, okay? You got other Republican governors that haven't taken action, and they're going to have hell to pay. But Mike Ricci, spokesperson for Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, said that the state of Maryland received more unemployment claims in the month of March than they received in all of 2019. Kansas Labor Secretary Delia Garcia urged people to keep calling. She said Kansas, like Maryland, has brought in more staff to help, but it's hard to train new people in a work from home environment. She said on a Facebook live chat this week, she said, "No, we are." She said, "No, we are not hanging up on you because we don't like you. We love you. We want to support you." Now, labor economists have urged Congress to give more money to states to help strengthen staffing and technology in unemployment offices. States with better websites have tended to move faster, as have states where the revenue department shares as have states where the revenue department shares data with the unemployment office to make it easier to verify past income. So check out this article from Washington Post. 6.6 million Americans filed for unemployment last week, bringing the pandemic total to over 17 million. Okay, and this is from April 9th, 2020. This is by Heather Long and Andrew Van Dam. Heather Long and Andrew Van Dam at Washington Post. If we look very quickly here at some updates from the IRS, I talked about this on I think Sunday night show, and also the broadcast from last Thursday. But we'll talk about this again because a lot of people don't know this information, and we'll post a link here. Economic impact payments, what you need to know. This is at irs.gov, irs.gov/newsroom/economic impact payments, what you need to know. This was last updated April 1st, 2020. So the IRS is saying check irs.gov for the latest information. No action needed by most people at this time to receive their stimulus checks. Who is eligible for the economic impact payment for the stimulus check? Tax filers with adjusted gross income up to $75,000 for individuals and up to $150,000 for married couples filing joint returns will receive the full amount. Single filers with income exceeding $99,000 a year and $198,000 for joint filers with no children are not eligible. Social Security recipients and railroad retirees who are otherwise not required to file a tax return are also eligible and will not be required to file a tax return. That was an update from what was the information originally coming from the Treasury Department, that people who receive Social Security benefits had to file a tax return. They do not now. Okay, that was changed with this April 1st update. How will the IRS know where to send my payment? As I stated before, that's based upon the information from your 2019 tax return. If you haven't filed for 2019, which is what people are filing for now, for what they made in 2019, they'll go by your 2008 tax return. If you have to do a change of address form, the change of address form is at irs.gov, and I'll give you that information. And then also, change of address form is form number 8822 at irs.gov. Form number 8822 at irs.gov. That's a change of address form. It normally takes about 4 to 6 weeks for a change of address form to be processed. If you want to change how they send the stimulus check, if you want them to, if you changed your bank account recently or something like that, or if you want, you don't want a paper check, you want direct deposit, that is form number 8888, allocation of refund. Form number 8888 at irs.gov, allocation of refund. Okay, so I am not typically required to file a tax return. Can I still receive my payment? The answer is yes. The IRS will use the information on the form SSA 1099 or form RRB 1099 to generate economic impact payments to recipients of benefits reflected in the form SSA 1099 or form RRB 1099 who are not required to file a tax return and did not file a return for 2018 or 2019. This includes senior citizens, Social Security recipients, and railroad retirees who are not otherwise required to file a tax return. This was an update that came out basically April 1st, because previously they had to, those people, the Treasury Department said that they had to file a tax return, but there was so many people were complaining about it. Democrats put pressure on Steve Mnuchin, on the White House, the Treasury Department, so they changed that. Since the IRS would not have information regarding any dependents for these people, each person would receive $1,200 per person without the additional amount for any dependents at this time. And as I've stated before, if you have a tax filing obligation but have not filed your tax return for 2018 or 2019, you will still receive the stimulus check. The IRS urges anyone with a tax filing obligation who has not yet filed a tax return for 2018 or 2019 to file as soon as they can to receive an economic impact payment. Taxpayers should include direct deposit banking information on the return. So how long are these stimulus checks available, these economic impact payments? How long are they available? For those concerned about visiting a tax professional or local community organization in person to get help with a tax return, these economic impact payments will be available throughout the rest of 2020. For more information on all of this, visit irs.gov, irs.gov/coronavirus. For more information on all this, I'll give you updates also. And we also see that worldwide, we're over 1.5 million cases of coronavirus worldwide. There have been almost 90,000 deaths worldwide. But there have also been about 340,000 reported cases of people totally recovering as well. About 340,000 cases of people recovering. That's almost a third. That's been an increase. Okay, so the number of reported cases of people totally recovering is increasing, and that is positive news. Okay. And a lot of times that does not get reported. So then let's see here. Well, that's about 22%. Yeah, that's about 23%. Okay, that's about 23%. Then in the U.S., we see the U.S. is over 430,000 reported cases, okay, in the U.S. And the percentage of people recovered in the U.S. is it's about right at about 2%. Okay, so let's look at we'll bring up the number here for the U.S. and total recovery as well. Okay. African American business owners, email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. So the book, Black Heroes of Fire. Black Heroes of Fire. This is a good book to read while people are at home dealing with, and you have stay-ins and things like this. Black Heroes of Fire tells the story of Engine Number 21, the members of Engine Number 21. Engine Number 21 was the first organized paid African American firefighting company in the city of Chicago. The book is written by DeKalb Walcott Jr. DeKalb Walcott Jr. Black Heroes of Fire: The History of the First African American Fire Company in Chicago. It's available right now at Amazon.com, and the website BlackHeroesOfFire.com, BlackHeroesOfFire.com. Order your copy today. So we know some people want to get their credit in order, and they see the importance of having good credit right now and having access to a credit line. RRRCreditServices.com can help you with that. They are your one-stop shop when it comes to credit education and repair. They equip you by providing solutions which will enable you to rebuild your financial future. The affordable cost to become a new client is just $30 for the first month. Take the first step by giving them a call today for a free credit consultation. Give them a call at 1-800-607-1989. 1-800-607-1989 for a free credit consultation. And Chandranette Middleton at rrrcreditservices.com or one of her assistants will help you. Let them know you found out about this from the African History Network. Now, author Teresa Roseman is the author of the book She Remembered Her Path. She Remembered Her Path is a book that tells the story of a woman named Sheteria. Sheteria finds herself in trouble because she cannot make decisions that were simple in her younger life, and she has lost her way. The fear is that she has stepped off the path she has created and now needs guidance to return to her confident self. Find out what happens to Sheteria in the book She Remembered Her Path by author Teresa Roseman. It's available at eBay, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon.com. It can also be found in Kindle form at Amazon as well. If we look at the number of people who have totally recovered in the U.S. is a little more than 24,000. Okay, so that's really only about 2 or 3% of the about 430,000 people in the U.S. who have COVID-19, who've been diagnosed with COVID-19. And let's see here. It's up. It's about 5%. So it's increased. It's increased a little. It's basically double. It's about 5.5% now. Have totally recovered in the U.S. Worldwide is 22%. Okay, so be sure to listen to our Sunday night show, the African History Network show, on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF in Detroit. Sundays 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast right here on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. So we broadcast right here for that as well. Listen to the audio podcasts of our shows. They're available at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on Listen to Podcasts on the homepage or wherever you get your podcasts from. Search for The African History Network, The African History Network, wherever you get your podcasts from. And all of my DVD lectures are available at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. $, the AHN Show through Cash App. $, the AHN Show through Cash App, and then PayPal.me/the AHN Show, PayPal.me/the AHN Show also. Okay, that helps us keep doing the research, finance our Sunday night show, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay the bills, etc. Okay, so look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it corrects wrong behavior. And let me see, the article from abcnews.com that I referenced, I want to give you the name of this article here because I heard Joy Ann Reid talk about this Wednesday night, April 8th on MSNBC. She was a guest hosting one of the shows on MSNBC. Intelligence report warned of coronavirus crisis as early as November. Intelligence report warned of coronavirus crisis as early as November. Analysts concluded it could be a cataclysmic event, a source says. This is from April 8th, 2020. Read this article from ABC News, abcnews.go.com, abcnews.go.com. All right, look, hey, we have to get out of here. Remember, right now is corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.